All right, today we're going to talk about an algorithm that you might think is, a little old school. But guess what? It's making a massive comeback in the world of AI. We're talking about polynomial regression. So, you know how we often start? We try to fit a straight line to our data to see a trend. It's simple, it's clean. But what happens when the real world just doesn't play by those straight line rules? Okay, think about this for a second. Let's say you're trying to predict a car's fuel efficiency based on how fast it's going. You plot the data, and it's not a straight line at all. It's a curve, right? Efficiency gets better as you speed up, but then you hit a certain point and it starts to drop off. A simple straight line is just going to get that completely wrong. And when your model is just too simple for the job, like trying to force a straight line onto that beautiful curve, well, that has a name. It's called underfitting. The model just misses the mark, leading to bad predictions because it fundamentally doesn't get the real story in the data. We call this high bias. So what if our model could, bend a little? What if it could follow that curve? Well, that's exactly where polynomial regression steps in. Think of it as the super flexible upgrade to linear regression. It's the tool that lets our model curve and bend and trace those complex patterns that were hiding in plain sight. Okay, now here's where it gets a little mind-bending. In a good way. It's a bit of a paradox, actually. How can a model that makes a curve still be called a type of linear regression? Yeah, this is where the magic happens. So if you look it up in a textbook, it'll tell you that polynomial regression models the relationship using an nth degree polynomial. All that really means is instead of the simple y is equal to mx plus b for a line, we're using a beefier equation with more parts to it. And those extra parts are exactly what gives it the power to create curves. And it's also the key to solving that whole linear puzzle. And this right here is the secret sauce. What we see is a curve, right? But what the math sees is actually a linear problem. How is that possible? Well, it's because the equation is linear when it comes to the coefficients. Those are the numbers the model's trying to figure out. And because of that little trick, we can still use the same super fast, super efficient methods like ordinary least squares to solve it. It's the best of both worlds. All right, so how does this thing actually work? How do we build that flexible curve? Let's pop the hood and see how we turn a simple line into something much more powerful. The whole secret is right here in the equation. We start with our basic linear model, theta 0 plus theta 1 times x, but then we start adding more terms. We add a term for x squared, then x cubed, and we can keep going. Each one of these new terms is like giving the model another joint, another place where it can bend and flex to fit the data better. This whole process has a really cool name, feature expansion. And get this, we're not adding any new data. We're actually creating new features from the one we already have. It's like we take our plain old x and we use it to create a whole team of new features, x squared, x cubed, and so on. Then we just hand this new, bigger team of features to our trusty linear model, and it does the rest. But of course, with all this incredible new power comes a big risk. It's really easy to go too far and make the model way too complex. And that, my friends, is the classic overfitting trap. So let's look at the two extremes. On one end, if we just use a degree of 1, well, that's just a straight line. It's too simple, it underfits, and it has what we call high bias because it completely misses the real pattern. Then you have the other extreme. What if we crank the degree way up to something crazy like 25? Now the model is too flexible. It starts wiggling all over the place, trying desperately to hit every single data point perfectly, even the random noise. This is overfitting. It might look amazing on the data it's already seen, but it'll be a disaster on new data. We call that high variance. So, what's the goal? It's finding that perfect sweet spot in the middle. We need a model that's just complex enough to capture the real trend, but not so complex that it starts memorizing all the random noise. That balance is pretty much the holy grail of machine learning. Which, of course, leads to the big question. How in the world do we find that sweet spot? You might think, oh, I'll just use R squared. But there's a problem. Standard R squared is a bit of a cheat. It will always go up as you add more complexity, even if that complexity is just fitting to noise. It's always going to tell you the most complexity model is the best. And this is where our hero metric comes in. Adjusted R squared. This one is smarter. It actually penalizes the model for adding extra complexity that doesn't really help. So, adjusted R squared will only go up if a new term actually improves the model's predictive power. It's the perfect tool for the job. Okay, enough theory. How do people actually do this in the real world? What does a modern professional workflow look like? Let's get practical. These days, the pros use something called a pipeline, especially with a library like Scikit-learn. It's basically a three-step process. First, use a StandardScaler. This is super important because when you have terms like x to the 10th power, the numbers can get massive and mess everything up. Second, you use PolynomialFeatures to automatically create all those x squared, x cubed terms for you. And third, you feed all of that into a regular linear regression model. It's clean, it's efficient. And to find that perfect degree, nobody does that by hand anymore. We use automated tools like GridSearchCV. It's brilliant. It just tries out a bunch of different degrees for you, uses a clever technique called cross-validation to see which one works best on unseen data, and then tells you the winner. It takes all the guesswork out of it. So, why are we talking about this in 2026? In an age of gigantic billion-parameter neural networks, why does this classic algorithm still matter? Well, it turns out it's found some incredibly important and, frankly, surprising new jobs to do. For starters, think about Edge AI. These models are small and fast, which makes them perfect for running on tiny, low-power sensors out in the real world, like on a wind turbine or an oil rig, doing predictive maintenance where you can't just call the cloud. Then there's their role as surrogate models. You can use one to build a simple, fast approximation of a massive, complex model like an LLM. This lets you understand and test the big model without the huge computational cost. And maybe most importantly, explainable AI. In fields like finance and medicine, you can't just say, the black box said so. You have to explain your decisions. And this is where a transparent model shines. And really, that's one of the biggest challenges in AI today. This quote really nails it. We're all trying to find that sweet spot between raw predictive power and actually being able to understand and trust what the model is doing. This is exactly why these simpler, more transparent models are making such a huge comeback. You can actually look inside and see how they work. And that kind of leaves us with a final provocative thought. In a world that's becoming more and more reliant on these incredibly complex black box algorithms, maybe the key to building a future with AI we can trust isn't about building better black boxes. Maybe it's about rediscovering the power of a simple, elegant glass box.